Norway. What could be better than Norway? Only those parts of Norway you haven't visited yet. Traveling around Norway by car is perhaps the best thing that could ever happen to you in this life. Fjords, glaciers, roads that take your breath away. And yet, it's also the quickest, surest way to blow your annual budget, or to get stuck in the middle of uninhabited mountains with a flat tire, a panic attack, and a cracked engine block. Norway isn't Europe as we usually think of it. It's another planet. The natural world here is divine, and the rules of life are a little different. Hi there. I've clocked up about 20,000 kilometers driving around Norway. Just imagine, 20,000. That's half the length of the equator, which I've personally left behind on Scandinavian tarmac. My route took me from the southern fjords, bathed in the occasional rays of sunshine, to the utterly bone-chilling, wind-swept North Cape in the far north, and from the east to the wildest, ocean-battered west. I wore out my brake pads mercilessly on those mad, spiraling, vertical hairpin bends. I lived in my car for weeks on end, subsisting on tinned food by the roadside, freezing, getting soaked in endless downpours, and I stepped entirely of my own free will into every hidden pitfall that this harsh yet beautiful Scandinavia could possibly have in store for me. This trip cost me a lot of stress, a few grey hairs, and an obscene amount of money, but in return, I gained an invaluable experience. And now, I'm ready to share everything I've learnt with you, free of charge, so that your trip doesn't turn into a struggle for survival. Let's get going. First and foremost, your car must be in excellent condition. If it's already making strange noises during normal driving, it's best to leave it at home. Norway isn't the best place to put your car through its paces. Ideally, you'll need high ground clearance, four-wheel drive, new tires, flawless brakes, and, I implore you, an automatic. Because driving up vertical mountain hairpin bends in a manual is a sophisticated pleasure reserved for masochists. Should you take your own car or hire one? Hiring a car in Norway isn't just expensive. It's bloody, outrageously expensive. Of course, if you sort this out a couple of months before your trip, the financial sting will be slightly less severe. A hire car is convenient. It's already registered with the AutoPASS system. But be prepared for your banking app to beep merrily every 5 minutes, deducting money every time you pass under another toll gantry. All in all, hiring a car is a luxury for the wealthy. But we're not looking for the easy way out, are we? So we take our trusty steed, load it onto the ferry, which, by the way, is a fascinating adventure in itself. And voila, we're in Norway. You'll need to register your own car with the AutoPASS system yourself. If you decide to play the rebel and ignore the registration, the system will track you down anyway. A couple of months after you return, you'll receive a letter of joy with a bill. I was lucky. They sent it without a surcharge. But I wouldn't advise you to test the Norwegian justice system's resilience. The roads here are quite something. They're either incredibly scenic or incredibly narrow. More often than not, they're both at the same time. Get ready for hairpin bends that'll make your heart race, and for tunnels that seem as endless as a Monday working day. Forget about speed. Due to the terrain, the average speed is 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. A 100-kilometer stretch will take you 2 hours. And not because the car lacks power, but because every 5 minutes you'll be stopping at viewpoints, gaping in amazement and trying to capture all this beauty through your smartphone lens. Thankfully, there are more rest areas here than there are Norwegians themselves. Plan your route with plenty of time to spare. Secondly, passing maneuvers. On narrow roads, look for a passing bay. If an oncoming car is closer to the lay-by, they'll politely wait. If you're closer, you'll have to reverse over the cliff edge. Norwegians are incredibly polite. Return the favor, always wave your hand in thanks. That's the custom here. And now for the sore point, fines. They'll drive you to despair. Exceeding the speed limit by just 10 to 15 kilometers per hour can set you back 500 or even 800 euros. There are plenty of speed cameras, but mainly near the big cities. You're about as likely to spot a police car on the roads as you are to see a unicorn. And you'd think that, with fines like that, the locals would drive like saints. But that's not quite the case. Norwegians drive like the wind and aren't shy about it. So your saintly, law-abiding behavior will quickly attract a line of irritated cars behind you. I'm certainly not encouraging you to break the law. Just give way. Pull over into a lay-by, let the speedsters pass. Take a deep breath and carry on, taking in the scenery. Ferries. In Norway, they're not a tourist attraction, but a practical necessity. There's no getting around them. Paying by card on board is no problem. They run frequently, and there's usually enough space for everyone. The exception is the Lofoten Islands. In summer, it's as busy with tourists there as it is at Disneyland, so it's best to book your ferry well in advance if you don't want to spend the night at the quay. Forget about paper notes. Cards are accepted everywhere, even in the most remote spot in the middle of a mountain valley. The main thing is to get a decent travel card with a brilliant exchange rate. Fuel prices here suggest it might be refined from fine vintage champagne. If you see a price at a petrol station that doesn't make you want to cry, fill up straight away. Camping and overnight stays. Norway has a wonderful law. Everyone's right to nature. It sounds romantic. You can pitch a tent or spend the night in your car for free in almost any beautiful spot. The main thing is not to pitch your tent right under a local farmer's windows. Norwegians won't appreciate your passion for communing with nature on their lawn. Your bright idea of spending the night in the wild on a picturesque mountain will most likely come up against a harsh reality. The ground here is so soggy you'd think the Great Flood had swept through before you arrived. There's water everywhere here, even under your feet. So the best option is to rent a traditional wooden cabin, stay at a caravan site, or book a hotel. Well, a hotel is a bit of a cliche and really only for those with a spare gold bar lying about. The food in Norwegian restaurants is probably delicious, but I'm not so sure. If, like me, you have a selfless love of money, cook for yourself. The Rema and Kiwi supermarkets will become your sanctuaries and best friends. And if you decide to eat at local cafes 3 times a day, you'll very quickly realize why Norwegians are so slim and fit. Be sure to buy a camping stove. Believe me, a hot meal from the supermarket, eaten while sitting on a folding chair with a stunning view of the fjord, is 1,000 times cooler, more romantic and tastier than any Michelin-starred restaurant. The weather in Norway is a very capricious lady. You might set off from the campsite in shorts in a perfectly bearable 20 degrees, only to find yourself caught in an icy downpour at 5 degrees an hour later on a mountain pass. And let me remind you, this is in June. So leave your city trainers for walks in the park. High-quality, waterproof hiking clothing and walking boots are your only chance of not turning into a soggy mess, especially if you're planning to hike in the mountains. Norway demands rigorous planning and discipline. It doesn't forgive carelessness or flip-flops on the trail, but believe me, every penny spent, every grey hair gained on the winding road, and every hour of planning will be worth it the moment you open the car door at the top of the pass and breathe in that incredible crystal clear air. And when you're standing on the edge of a rocky precipice at 11 o'clock in the evening, with it as bright as day all around you and the sun showing no sign of setting, at that moment you'll be overcome by an absolute, profound realization. It was all worth it. So, if you're ready for a real adventure, go for it. If this little video has helped you, please give it a like. I'd be genuinely delighted to hear your comments, advice, and feedback. You'll also find plenty of videos on my roadshow channel featuring trips around Norway, just the road with endlessly beautiful views, without music or commentary. And I'm still uploading new videos, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. We've still got plenty of roads ahead of us. See you soon!